So that property now that's like, oh, we can't pay you on this lease because you didn't send out the guest card because they don't understand how digital marketing works. Now they're being politely reminded that sending guest cards don't make any sense at all. They've got the email script that I wrote out. They got the video explaining the same thing. And then they also have the recorded Zoom call entire appointment. Right? So, because remember, the main root of the problem is that they just want to feel comfortable and confident that, hey, you know, we're really their representation. We're the brokerage firm that helped them. We did their pre-qual. There's a date somewhere to be seen. What better way to solve their concerns than sending them the actual appointment on Zoom recorded with a date stamp, right? This has worked for us every single time. I'm making so much money with locating, I actually paid off Invisalign in cash. Isn't that cool? Anyhow, I was just recently in Florida on vacation. We went to Disney World. Not do that again. One of my OG students met up with us and actually came to Disney World. If you're watching this, Alex, thanks for coming out there. Let's plan a better trip next time. Anyhow, we were talking a lot about locating during that not so awesome trip to Disney World. But Alex and I actually touched on something really important. He was actually kind of shocked when he was asking me how I was handling sending over guest cards, right? So let's demystify that and explain to you guys why I don't actually send guest cards. Because my student Alex was pretty shocked when I told him that out of my over 8 years in the industry in apartment locating, I've only maybe sent off guest cards before my client arrives, like maybe 3 times in like over 8 years. And that kind of shocked him because I know that in his market in Florida, and I hear this a lot in other markets in Texas as well, some properties ask for us to send over a paper guest card before the client tours, right? This never really made sense, and in this video I'm going to explain to you why it actually doesn't make sense to send over a guest card before your client tours, which some apartments think that they can require, right? But whenever I explain it to the property, I always get paid, and then they understand what I'm trying to say to them, and then they end up actually agreeing with me, like every single time. Right? So if you guys understand how your own business works and how to explain the process of not dealing with guest cards to other apartments that might require it, then you will also get paid, right? And then you will also stop being annoyed by properties requiring you to send over guest cards, right? I'm going to explain to you guys why I don't send guest cards out before my clients arrive, because it doesn't make sense. All right, so let's get started. To begin this video, we need to talk about why properties are actually asking for the guest card, right? Let's talk about the root cause of why this is happening, because if you don't understand every single aspect of your own business, apartment locating, then how can you expect to ask to get paid anyways? And how can you expect to omit a practice from your business if you don't really understand what's happening, right? So the reason apartments ask apartment locators or real estate agents that send over their rental clientele, the reason they ask us to send over a guest card before they tour is because they want to sort of make sure that we are actually representing the client and putting in the work as far as pre-qualifying them, because that's all a guest card really is. It's just a paper form of pre-qualification, right? And a date. So the properties just want to make sure it's actually our client that we're representing, right? There's tons of ways in apartment locating, especially, to free up income basically out of thin air. I mean, you can represent yourself. I used to do that all the time. Free up commission out of thin air. Most properties are okay with it, right? You can also lease friends or family members or siblings or whatever, your inner circle, right? And then free up commission like that out of thin air, right? So even though most apartments don't really mind that we represent friends or family members, because everyone technically is entitled to representation, the apartments just kind of want to feel comfortable that it's actually a legit client. We actually did do pre-qual and we had an appointment with them and we're really their representation. They're thinking to themselves, right? Maybe if we ask for the paper guest card before the client visits our property, that's sort of proof enough that this locator is truly their representation, and then they're comfortable paying us for our services, right? So the logic there makes sense. It makes sense why properties would like to request a filled out pre-qualification paper guest card before they pay us the commission, right? But when you dive a little deeper, because that's what we do at my company, we dive deep inside of apartment locating and really demystify everything and pay attention, right? So if you dive deeper into the act and the whole process and the step of sending a guest card over before our clients arrive, it really doesn't make sense on several levels. Specifically, our custom email domain servers. All right, so don't worry if that didn't make any sense to you, I will explain it. So if you look at the normal daily workflow of an apartment locator, right? Locators work with several leads every single day. Leads are people, right? So the thing is, it's kind of known in this industry that apartment locators might talk to 10 leads or 10 people that need help finding an apartment, and will end up really closing like 2 to 4, right? 20 to 40% close rate. And the reason this happens is because, sometimes people decide not to move, they decide to purchase, they decide to go with a rental house, which you can still help them, but there's just less commission. That's why personally, I stick to apartment locating, right? Higher commission, and it's first come, first serve. That's a whole nother video though. If we understand that we're helping probably 10 people before we close 2 or 3 of them, that sort of kind of can translate to like 5 leads or so every single day, right? That's sort of where you'd like to be. So understanding that we're working with, say, 5 leads every single day, in 30 days, right? Sort of the monthly production, what is 5 people times 30 days? That's 150 clients that we're gonna potentially represent, talk to, do pre-qualification, send them over a list, etc. So if we pull up a calculator and do basic math, if you take 150 leads or so in a month, and you know what, let's round down in this example just to make it even more unbelievably clear and just easy to understand, right? So 100 leads in a month as an apartment locator, okay? That means you're probably gonna close anywhere from 10 to 30 people, and that is realistic to earn your 20 or 40 grand a month, right? So 100 people every single month. As an apartment locator, if each client is going to receive, let's keep it conservative, one list of around 10 apartment options that might match their criteria, that is 10 apartments times every one client you're going to deal with. Okay, now if we're working with 100 leads in that month, what is 100 clients times 10 lists of apartments you're going to send to them? That's 10 times 100. So 10 times 100 is 1,000. Now ask yourself, does it really make sense to send over 1,000 emails containing the guest card for each and every one of those clients before they actually tour the apartment and voice to the locator that they're interested in moving forward? I hope you're seeing how rather ridiculous that would be to send over 1,000 emails knowing that your 100 leads are probably only going to move forward with maybe 10 or 20 or 30 of those apartments, right? Because you end up closing 10 to 30 people that month. So that's a lot of emails to send out, right? Now we're going to talk about why this doesn't make sense as a brokerage firm to send out 1,000 emails. If you have any kind of basic knowledge about how digital marketing works, you will understand the value of building your own custom email domain and building credibility due to your open rates. That's like sort of a very basic digital marketing lesson that should be understood. Now, if you are going to send out 1,000 emails on behalf of your 100 people you work with every single month, and out of those 1,000 emails, really 20 people choose 20 apartments to move forward with, right? You might get good open rates the first time you do that, but what about next month? Do you think that all of those apartments that you email over and over and over again 1,000 times every single month, do you think they're going to start opening your emails when your clients end up not closing? Probably not. So the problem ends up becoming an open rate issue. So over time, these properties are probably not going to open your emails because your leads never close, because only 20 of them do. So at large scale, you start building like negative feedback or negative history on your custom email servers, which in turn hurts the rate of which your emails actually will get delivered in the first place. That's what happens when you send over thousands of emails and then no one opens them because no one's closing. You're gonna hurt your deliverability rate. Now, when that happens, your custom email domain is now basically toast because you have a horrible deliverability rate because you're sending out 1,000 emails per one agent every single month, and only 20 people are choosing an apartment and moving forward. So over time, you're like training these properties that like, hey, every email I send out to you, probably 90% chance they're not going to close. So this is just a waste of an email, just so you can meet the requirement of sending out a guest card prematurely before the client tours. Here's another issue. What if the client never tours the 10 properties because they only like 3? And they only go to 3. Are you starting to see the issue here? Now let's actually take this issue and scale it up some more, right? What if you're a brokerage firm owner and now you have 10 agents all piggybacking off of the same company custom email domain, right? So now instead of sending 1,000 emails per your own behalf, well, now you're a small brokerage firm and you've got 10 agents, right? You're sending out 1,000 times 10 emails every single month, which is 10,000. What if you're a brokerage firm with 100 agents? So now you've got 1,000 times 100, which is 100,000 emails. I mean, in like 1 month, you would crash your entire custom email domain system and G Suite would just drop you. That's why apartment locators or any company that really understands digital marketing does not send out email guest cards before their client actually shows interest, because it just doesn't make sense. No one wants to just light their custom email domain server on fire, right? Google remembers that too. If you're a company and you're sending out hundreds of thousands of emails, a lot of them aren't even getting open, and you're not getting responses or replies, it's all stored in the history. You're gonna toast and just completely eradicate the credibility of your custom email domain, right? Now let's talk about another example that's sort of like how we can prove this and how we can see it, right? If you actually study the largest apartment locating database leader in our entire industry, which is Smart Database, they actually do not have a feature that will auto email our guest cards over to properties when you send out a list. I just get this question a lot. Everyone's like, hey, Pierre, why doesn't the database company just auto email the guest card over to the properties whenever we compile a list and send it off to our clients? Doesn't that seem like a solution, to just automatically send out an email guest card right when you create a list? Right? So logically, yes, that would be the solution and that would make sense, right? But the reason that that feature is not offered and has never been offered is based on exactly what I just explained to you. They don't want to crash their email server domains because they have like thousands of locators signed up on their system, right? So they allow us to compile lists and send them over to our clients because that's a client. You know they're going to open up the email and then respond, hey, thanks so much for the list, I like these. So it's all good. It doesn't hurt their custom email domain server, right? But if they started automatically sending out email guest cards to all of the properties on behalf of one client, they would be sending out millions and millions of emails. And that sort of brings us back to the same problem that I just outlined, right? Smart doesn't want to email guest cards on our behalf because they understand that it's pointless too, and they want to protect their own email server. The only way you would know what I'm talking about is if you have a lot of experience with digital marketing and email marketing. Otherwise, you just would have no idea. But I've been studying digital marketing for years, and it's sort of how we like to train our locators to work, right? Our main focus with all the programs that we offer is strengthening your digital marketing skills, right? So that way you can work less, work more efficiently, and make more money, right? But part of that knowledge allows us to understand why our database is not auto sending emails out and why we as locators should not be emailing guest card to every single property before the client tours. It would just be an outrageous amount of emails, especially if you're a company and you have multiple agents. You would crash your custom email domain server, and it would be so annoying to every month have to come up with a new custom email domain, build new credibility, right? Have horrible deliverability rates. Like, no one's going to do that, right? So for an apartment to actually tell us that they need a emailed guest card before the client arrives is not the way this industry is designed, right? So what we do for our paid students that have invested in our program is we come up with an email script worded very well. I wrote it, right? And we give them a video, like a spokesperson performed video script explaining to them in a very, very short way exactly what I walked you guys through in a nice, professional, friendly way. Instead, offering to send out 2 things that helps us collect, even if we haven't sent out a guest card prematurely, right? What we do at my firm is we send them an email, right? So every single time we get pushback, it's not all the time, but all the apartments that just don't know how digital marketing works, and they're like, well, you didn't send a guest card before, so you're not gonna get paid. You know, the first thing we do is I have my team relax, take a deep breath, and then send out an email using the script I came up with, politely and professionally explaining this, why we don't send out guest cards prematurely and how it actually would damage our business. Attach the script. We attach the video as well through a link, so that way they have everything that's on the email explained to them over video. But the third thing we do is we actually paste the recorded Zoom call appointment, because now in 2023, we are now starting to teach locators to actually work via Zoom so we can record the appointment, right? So we send all of that stuff out through an email. So that property now that's like, oh, we can't pay you on this lease because you didn't send out the guest card because they don't understand how digital marketing works. Now they're being politely reminded that sending guest cards don't make any sense at all. They've got the email script that I wrote out. They got the video explaining the same thing. And then they also have the recorded Zoom call entire appointment. Right? So, because remember, the main root of the problem is that they just want to feel comfortable and confident that, hey, you know, we're really their representation. We're the brokerage firm that helped them. We did their pre-qual. There's a date somewhere to be seen. What better way to solve their concerns than sending them the actual appointment on Zoom recorded with a date stamp, right? This has worked for us every single time. That is actually why we don't send over emailed guest cards. It just doesn't make logistical sense or any sense in any aspect of the word of common sense. We have recently completely changed our business model to working with even more digital marketing systems and Zoom calls. It's been really helping lowering our ghost rate, and we don't send guest cards. That's a waste of time. We also don't schedule appointments for our clients. That's an even bigger waste of time. And then lastly, confirming the live pricing on behalf of our client. We don't do that because that's an even bigger waste of time, right? So if you are curious on how to do this job properly, efficiently, like a real estate duck hunter, then what you need to do is click the link below this video, reach out to my team and see how we can actually help you succeed. It's very, very easy to start in this amazing opportunity and industry of apartment locating because there's a lack of actual solid digital marketing focused training out on the market on how to be an apartment locator correctly, right? So reach out to my team if you think that we could add value and show you how to efficiently do this job better so you can avoid doing pointless tasks that I see locators currently doing in the market, like sending guest cards prematurely or scheduling appointments. Don't do any of that stuff, guys, unless you want to stay at 10K a month max, But if you want to actually evolve into $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 a month with less work and more efficiency, then reach out to my team. I hope this video was helpful to you, and this is why I don't send guest cards prematurely. I hope that helped. Now you have the answer. We look forward to talking to you and seeing how we can add value into your career. All right, guys, I'll see you on the next one.